Neighbor didn't like the color of my house. This was about 10 or 11 years ago in a medium-sized city in Indiana. I moved into a house and had it painted to a new color scheme. It looked nice, was a little different than the surrounding homes, but it wasn't pink and yellow or anything stupid. Some whackadoodle across the street came over and said it was horrible looking and told me to change it. Well, I wondered if maybe I wasn't thinking right, so I asked 4 other neighbors and none of them had an issue at all, thought it was a nice improvement. So I let him know no one else had an issue and he told me, "I've got deep pockets, if you don't change it, I'm getting a lawyer." I told him to go ahead and have a nice day. After a few lawyers told him he had no case, he tried to get an HOA formed. Held meetings, paid someone to draw up the proposed rules, etc. No one else would agree, so his investment was a waste and he just wouldn't stop bitching about it. Well, I already owned several rental properties at that point and was always on the hunt for more, so when the houses next door to him were selling, I ended up buying both of them but never told him I owned either. I had picked up the first one in early fall and the other in the winter, so when summer rolled around, I had both of them painted the exact same as mine. He was so pissed. Even better is the fact that I bought them in 2009-2010s and sold them last year for a very nice profit. Thanks, irrationally angry man. My neighbors painted their house all dark blue minus one spot they ran out of paint and painted it brown. Personally, I hate it and it sets off my OCD. So you know what I do? Mind my damn business and not look at it. You could have also painted the brown spot blue in the middle of the night. Even if you had formed an HOA, you would have had to willingly join, otherwise you were not part of it. Not to mention the painting happened before the HOA, so you typically can't change existing, only stop future issues. Like if an HOA changes to no dogs, they can't make you get rid of your dog, just prevent you from getting a new dog. I love this. I had a friend, we are no longer friends because of shit like this. She and I were driving around town doing errands together. She pointed to a house, a lovely well-kept home in a nice neighborhood, and complained about the color. It was a dark gray with white trim. I murmured something like, "Not my first choice, but it's not bad." Then another day she pointed out a house in her own neighborhood that was painted a dark green, fresh new paint job. She hated it. I didn't agree with her. I just don't get why something that doesn't or shouldn't affect them gets some folks all riled up. Incredible that he wanted to start an HOA over this. Most I've ever done is point and say, "Wonder why they chose that color," then I just go back to not giving a shit cause it isn't my house. In the late 80s, a new development went up not far from my neighborhood. It was your typical suburban neighborhood, lots of houses in about 6 different styles, all painted various shades of inoffensive suburban bland. One day, one of the larger houses had been painted a very unfortunate shade of green. We immediately began referring to it as the puke green house. It was awful. But it wasn't our neighborhood and there was no HOA or anything, so it was just there, looking horrible. Then suddenly, it was an inoffensive shade of medium blue. My guess is the owners had an epiphany one evening as they pulled into the driveway and realized, my god, that's a terrible color. And repainted it one weekend. Revenge for firing my son. Even though it's been a number of years, I'm going to be somewhat general in my post, just in case they read this. My son was working for a well-known gas station chain. He worked the night shift and constantly dealt with overdoses in the parking lot, bathrooms, etc. Most of these were friends or BFGF of the workers and managers. Literally almost everyone that worked there was on heroin or some other type of drugs. My son did inventory and some ordering and knew someone and or multiple people were stealing from the business. He reported it to his manager, who'd said they look into it. The next night, he worked his normal night shift and at the end the manager came in and asked to speak to him. She accused him of stealing and said she had it on camera. He asked what he stole and she refused to give him an answer and said that for legal reasons, she couldn't tell him. He then asked to see the camera footage and was given the same answer. He came home visibly upset and scared. He thought they were going to call the police on him and he was also worried about having a termination for theft on his job history. He had just turned 18 and just graduated high school. I told him that she had nothing. Otherwise she wouldn't have let him work all night by himself, that they didn't have any camera footage or she would have called the police. That more than likely she didn't want him snitching on her and her druggy friends. At these gas stations, they had a service that customers could use, in which the gas station made a huge part of their profits from. I have worked in a lot of factories and knew that the gas station did not have the appropriate safety signage nor training for this service. There was a lot of high voltage, and frankly, no one should have been operating the service without signage or training. I called OSHA and filed a report. Not 1 week later, this service was shut down. Not only was that place shut down, but the inspector went to every gas station this company owned in a 15-mile radius and shut every single one down and gave the company a huge fine for every infraction at every station. It didn't end there. OSHA showed up at their gas stations for years. More fines, more shutdowns. A few years later, the company ended up selling the service to a third-party contractor to get rid of the headache. The manager never filed a police report, there was never any camera footage. In fact, she was fired after the first OSHA inspection, and they later found out she had been stealing. She probably fired him to keep him from collecting evidence, and so she could blame him for it if him or anyone else did report any theft. I began reading this post with a mindset of what kind of fucking helicopter parent is op. And finished reading with a mindset of yeah, rip this lady to shreds with your rotors. Good revenge. Park your bike in my corral. Good luck getting it back. This happened just before summer ended. TLDR at bottom at the grocery store where I work, there is a large cart corral at the front of the store directly in front of you when you walk in the doors. This corral holds 90 shopping carts when full, in 4 columns of interlocked metal. So you can imagine how much empty space there is when it's not full. One of my duties is to keep an eye on that corral and, when it starts to get empty, go out and refill it with carts in the parking lot. This is a time-consuming process. And while it is happening, any number of people will attempt to use the space in the corral for their own purposes. It's empty space, no one's using it, brah. Yes, actually, I am using it. It is not for your use. So one day, I'm out grabbing carts and when I come back, a dude is literally parking his bicycle inside the corral, kickstand, helmet and everything. I attempt to advise him that this space is not a bicycle parking area and he snaps back with, "I'll just be a minute. Don't you touch my fucking bike." Now, unbeknownst to him, I've had this problem before. That time, I moved the bike outside and continued my work. Management told me to never do this again since, if I touch the bike and it is later stolen, I can be considered liable for the theft or even an accessory after the fact. So there is no way I am touching this bike. That said, it's right in the way and I still need to get carts inside. It is at this point that I come up with a plan. This man has told me not to touch his bike. Ergo, he probably doesn't want anyone else to touch his bike either. Well, I can help with that. I proceed to gather 12 shopping carts and, with a little finesse, form a wall of steel around this man's parked bike without ever directly touching said bike. I use the chain locks to make them one interconnected unit. Then, for the finale, I take the cart key, TM, to lock them. A quick note about the cart key. For anyone who's never worked with shopping carts before, some stores utilize magnetized wheel locks that stop the cart from leaving the store's property. I'm not exactly sure how the mechanism works without a power source in the cart, but it's damned effective all the same. Attempt to leave the property and one of the wheels locks, making the cart itself entirely impossible to move if you don't lift the locked wheel off the ground. One of my duties is to head out to the edge of the property with a car key to unlock them. This nifty device, when placed close to the locked wheel and a button pressed, will unlock said wheel, allowing you to roll the cart back to where it belongs with ease. What a lot of people don't know is that these car keys also have a button to lock the wheel instead. It is rarely ever used, but it does exist. So, I go to fetch the car key, make sure to arrange the carts so that there's no entrance or exit for the bike without moving them, and proceed to lock each and every wheel on each and every one of the 12 carts. Satisfied that absolutely no one is going to touch this bike, I go back to filling up the cart corral and watching out for the dude who parked the bike. As soon as I catch sight of him in line at the register, I head inside and tell my boss that I'm taking my lunch. 30 minutes of sweet freedom. So I head out to my car and drive to an A&W down the street. Silly me, I forgot to put the cart key back in the store before I left. When I get back from lunch, I am greeted with a glorious sight. Bike dude is standing in the entranceway with milk, popsicles and cans of frozen fruit juice, just gleefully melting and going bad in the sweet summer heat. Dude is yelling and screaming at the manager. "You think this is funny? I'm going to sue for theft. I want a refund on my groceries. Blah blah blah." Then he catches sight of me heading into the store and rushes to get into my face. "BD. You did this to me. You fucking asshole." Me. HRM. "Did what?" BD, pointing to his well-protected bike. "You fucking locked my bike away. You fucking fuck. My groceries are going bad because of you." Me, with a smirk. "Oh? So you're inconvenienced because someone else parked where they shouldn't have. What a coinky dink." At this point, my manager comes up with a half-hearted disapproving stare. "Samitnap, do you have the car key? We can't find it and this gentleman needs to get his bike." I put a show on of smacking my forehead and pull out the car key. "I'm so sorry, boss. It totally slipped my mind that I had that in my pocket. Here you go." Bike dude tried to have me fired for that stunt, but it was rightfully pointed out to him that he parked his bicycle where it was not supposed to go, and that, well, my particular parking job was not company policy per se. That was where carts were supposed to go, and he should have expected his bike to be buried by the carts. I did get a stern lecture about intentionally locking the carts to make his day worse, but my manager was trying his hardest not to laugh while he did so. So I think I'm in the clear. TLDR. An entitled prick tries to use my cart corral as his own personal bicycle parking. Instead, he gets a taste of his own medicine when he comes back to find his bike buried in locked carts. Ah, revenge being served coldly on a hot summer day. Nice job, Bob. Hey, you successfully did your job all without touching his bike. I'd call it a win. I think intentionally made his day worse, even if true, is an unfounded accusation. If you hadn't locked the carts they would have rolled and hit his bike, so that is easily defensible as going out of your way to ensure you could do your job without damaging the bike. Oh, this video has come to an end. If you want more such cool stories, then go to one of the many following videos.